20 years ago, in 2002, two major things happened to me. First, I got married, but I reassure you that's not what this video is about. It's about the second big event of that year. I began a retro gaming album project, and since 20 years have passed, we can almost say that we'll be talking about a retro project about retro. It all began when I felt I missed something. Since I was a child, and as many of you certainly did in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, I read game magazines. More than the articles themselves, I was interested in screenshots. I liked to browse through them, no matter if this was a machine that I owned or not. I was just as interested in games that I could have as in those that I knew were beyond my reach. Some screenshots fascinated me. I'd just look at them and wonder, trying to imagine the actual gameplay. Now, this was well before YouTube or even the web. Back then, there were not so many chances to have a look at the game in motion before buying it. Sometimes the store had some of them in demo, but the main way to try new games remained the visit to your friends. As for me, I was immensely satisfied just looking at photos, and I would have liked much more of them. I sorely missed a few extra shots for games that I deemed fantastic. Looking over and over again at the few available pictures, I felt like a hungry beast gnawing a bone. That was in the 80s. Decades later, I faced a similar need, not with games I wanted to discover, but with games I owned and played as a kid. Why? Because just like when you tour interesting places and take pictures to look at years later, I wanted to have picture albums of games I finished. That is the philosophy behind my retro album. The idea is to show not a few, but a whole lot of screenshots, and most importantly, not random ones, but those that reflected the most faithfully as possible my own walkthrough of the entire game. After different tries, I came to the conclusion that the best layout was 8 rows of 5 pictures each. That meant 40 screenshots per page. Currently, I have 3 possible formats, depending on the game. 1 page, 1 double page, or 2 double pages should be dedicated. 1 page, 40 screenshots for an action game like Nebulous, for example, where the setup doesn't change much from one stage to another. 1 double page, 80 screenshots for a more varied action game like Strider, where each level is completely different. Two double pages, 160 screenshots for graphical adventure games like Indiana Jones, Loom, or Monkey Island, where by definition each individual scene is important and a pleasure to look at. Some RPGs like Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder, or the Ultima series had varied enough features to justify a double page as well. And same thing for some flight sims like F-19 Stealth Fighter. Needless to say, these are screenshots I took myself during gameplay and not something I could get from some other source. Or couldn't because I'm not aware of any site of any printed or online resources that provides 160 screenshots reflecting a consistent walkthrough for a given game and system. This is how I work. For each game, I'm taking a staggering amount of screenshots, reaching over 1,000 in many cases. Then I selected the needed number, 40, 80, or 160, to depict a consistent story from intro to end screen. I'm really enjoying this selection process, and that takes me almost as much time as to take all the gameplay screenshots from beginning to end. I think in some cases, the selection took me more time than the gameplay, because that's the main added value in this project, to find the essence of the game, to try and feature all its key moments in a restricted space. I'm desperate to include them all and find it very frustrating to be forced to leave behind so many interesting pictures that couldn't fit on the page. Aside from complete walkthroughs, the album also provides preview pages. Those I use for games that are either too repetitive to justify a whole page or that I didn't have time to play through completely. They are limited to a single line of screenshots, but even there it's in no way random screens, but those that I choose to represent the topmost key moments in as limited a range as 5 pictures. Finally, I put in pages with the most emblematic box covers for each computer or console, front and back, and also glimpses at pages from game manuals and other goodies. The ultimate goal for this album is to have in your hands an exhaustive representation of the most interesting games from those systems in the scope. Now, a word about this scope. Currently, my project covers essentially those systems, computers and consoles I was the most familiar with back in the day. But this is an open project. If I find that this concept interests you people, then I'll consider games and systems I never had the chance to play so far. It would be a wonderful experience to discover them and add them to the rest. I worked on this project for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012 when I reached 100 pages or so. At this stage, I published it for myself, to see the result. I found it satisfying. The print resolution is good enough so as to see small details in pictures. The colors are faithful to the original. The only thing that can be improved is paper quality. It's glossy, but not super extra top glossy. Even so, the printing cost was about $80, which was so expensive that I thought no one would buy it at this price, even if I didn't add any extra cost for my work, $5 for instance, to arrive at $85 in total. That's why I put the project in standby. So what has changed after 10 years? First of all, there's a larger audience, and the interest for retro gaming has grown. I also had the opportunity to discuss this project in various social media channels and convince myself that this album could actually interest people. I now have my YouTube channel to back it up, and during that time, technology has improved and there are more self-publishing possibilities than before. So, it's probable that I could find a better quality at a lower cost. Obviously, when published, it will be through a wide access selling channel such as Amazon and the like, so that everyone can easily find it. I'm considering an ebook version in addition to the printed one, but the first aim is clearly print. That's what is currently lacking, and that's what you can't find anywhere. If this project interests you, don't hesitate to say so in the comments. Tell me what price you'd be willing to pay for a 100 or 150 page album with neat printing on glossy paper. Tell me what computer or console interests you, and what kind of games. For the moment, I have MS-DOS, Atari ST, Amstrad CPC, Nintendo NES, Sega Master System, Sega Mega Drive and Genesis, MSX, and French-made Thomson machines. About 100 pages in total. Open for more. I hope you enjoy this project as much as me. Stay tuned for more on this, and in the meantime, have nice retro dreams.